always knew my sister Sabrina loved the spotlight. Even when we were little, she'd choreograph backyard dance routines and make me sit on the grass clapping like her unpaid fan club. She got the sparkly dresses, the solo parts in school plays, the loud birthday parties. I got the leftovers, the hand-me-downs, the quiet praise behind closed doors, and the gentle "you're the dependable one" remarks that never made it into the family group chat. We weren't enemies, just orbiting different planets. And I learned early, if I ever shined too brightly, Sabrina dimmed the light switch real quick. So I played small, did the helpful sister thing, the "I'm fine's no big deal" act. Even when she snapped at me in front of our cousins. Even when she joked about how I'd never bring anyone home for the holidays. Even when she asked me to cover half her venue deposit because, in her words, "You don't have a wedding to save for, right?" Said yes. I always did. Because deep down I still thought that maybe one day she'd see me, not as background noise but as a real part of her story. Maybe she'd say thank you. Maybe she'd let me exist without turning me into the punchline. So when the wedding came and I saw my name wasn't on the program, when I realized I'd been placed at table 9, behind the speaker, next to her ex-babysitter, I didn't cry. I just smiled. Told myself it didn't matter. 'Cause this was her day. And I was just here to support her. Again. But what I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that before the night ended, her groom would pick up the mic and blow the entire room apart. The venue was beautiful. String lights curled around wooden beams, soft jazz floated through the garden air, and everything looked like it had been pulled from a bridal magazine. Filtered perfection. Guests wore champagne tones. Servers moved like clockwork. Sabrina. She was glowing, every strand of hair locked in place, floating down the aisle like she owned the air itself. And me. I stood by the side archway, half smiling, trying not to feel like a stranger in a story I helped fund. The final vendor check-in had gone through me. The custom cake toppers. My idea. Even the late floral switch Sabrina made at midnight 2 weeks ago. I had driven to the florist to handle it. Yet somehow, when I walked up to the seating board, my name wasn't even on the printed guest list. "Excuse me," I asked the usher, tapping his clipboard. "I'm Emily Ross, sister of the bride." He scanned it, frowned, then nodded toward the far-right table near the DJ booth. "You're at table 9. Table 9. The table with the backup cousins. The one behind the pole with a broken chair and an obstructed view of the sweetheart table." I walked over slowly, trying not to take it personally. But each step echoed louder in my chest than the music playing through the speakers. At the table, the only familiar face was one of Sabrina's old friends, someone who'd once called me a study nerd with zero social capital in high school. Perfect. I sat down, carefully smoothed my dress, and reminded myself, this isn't about you. This is her day. Don't cause a scene. But when I looked across the lawn and saw my own parents sitting at the main table next to Sabrina's college roommates, and saw the extra chair next to them empty, that's when it stung. Not because I needed special treatment, but because I had spent months pouring myself into making her day flawless, while she'd spent those same months making me invisible. The room clapped as Sabrina and Daniel were introduced. She beamed. Clapped too. But deep down, something had already started shifting. And it wasn't resentment. It was clarity. Because even on her biggest day, Sabrina still couldn't help but remind me. In her story, I was always the supporting act. But tonight, the spotlight had other plans. Dinner was winding down. Laughter echoed from the main table. Champagne flutes clinked. Sabrina was glowing, surrounded by people who fed her energy like oxygen to a flame. Then came the moment. She stood up, microphone in hand, veil draped off her shoulder, and tapped the mic like a seasoned performer. All right, I promised I wouldn't get too sentimental. But let's be real, when have I ever kept a promise like that? Laughter. First of all, thank you to everyone who made this day possible. My girls, my mom, my amazing in-laws. And of course my husband, who still thinks this was all his idea. More laughter. Emily sipped her wine, forcing a smile. She could feel it coming. Sabrina's smile curled tighter, her eyes sweeping the crowd until they landed, unmistakably, on Emily. And then there's my big sister Emily. The mysterious one. The single one. The one who hasn't brought anyone home in. What? 4 presidential terms. The crowd laughed. Some too hard. Emily's heart thudded. She's like a ghost. Shows up at family holidays with store-bought cookies and a new dramatic haircut, and then vanishes before dessert. We always joke she's either writing a novel or starring in her own crime documentary. Someone from the groom's side actually snorted. Emily's face didn't move. Not one muscle. But in all seriousness, Sabrina added with mock sincerity, Emily really does have a big heart. And a big wallet. Thanks again for helping out with the venue when I had that little credit card mishap. Few people clapped. Emily didn't. Her hand stayed frozen on the stem of her glass. Because that last line was never supposed to be public. And Sabrina knew it. The laughter faded, replaced by awkward coughs and a few glances Emily's way. Someone muttered, "Damn." Another guest whispered, "Was that necessary?" Emily stood up slowly, quietly, and slipped away from table 9. She didn't storm. Didn't cry. She walked straight through the back gate, where the string lights faded into the trees, and let the cold night air press against her skin. Inside, the reception carried on. But something had broken. And Sabrina didn't know it yet. But she just triggered the most unexpected silence of the night. Because her groom had been watching the whole thing. The air outside was cooler, quieter, like the night itself had taken a breath on Emily's behalf. She leaned against the wooden archway by the garden, away from the laughter, away from the camera flashes, away from the sting in her chest that no glass of champagne could numb. She didn't cry. Not because she wasn't hurt, but because she'd already cried for Sabrina too many times. On birthdays where she felt forgotten. On holidays where her help was expected but never acknowledged. On nights where her silence was mistaken for weakness. Tonight she'd reached a different place. Not sadness. Not even anger. Just numbness. A bridesmaid stepped outside briefly, glanced her way, then quickly turned back as if uncomfortable with the sight of someone not pretending. Emily exhaled slowly and looked up at the stars, unchanging, unblinking. She whispered aloud to no one. She always finds a way. From behind her, a soft voice answered. I noticed. She turned startled, then froze. Daniel. Sabrina's new husband. Still in his tuxedo, tie slightly loosened, glass in hand. He didn't smile. He didn't flinch. He just walked up and stood beside her, both of them looking out over the dark lawn. That speech, he said carefully, was supposed to be funny. Emily gave a quiet, bitter laugh. She's always the comedian. No, Daniel said, finally turning to face her. Comedians know the difference between roasting and humiliating. That silence stretched between them. Heavy. Real. Emily searched his face, unsure if he was just being polite or if he really saw it. She's your wife, she said, her voice flat. You don't have to say anything. Daniel shook his head slowly. I didn't marry her to stay silent. He paused. Followed. I saw what you did these past few months. The planning, the backup checks, the late-night calls. I also saw how she treated you. It's not my place to. It is now, he cut in gently. Because she married me. And I married into this. Emily stared at him. And for the first time that night, she didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. Don't leave, Daniel said. There's something I need to say. To everyone. Emily raised an eyebrow. You sure? He gave a small, serious nod. It's my wedding too. And with that, he turned and walked back inside, leaving Emily under the stars, stunned. Because what she thought was going to be another night of surviving her sister's spotlight was about to turn into something unforgettable. Back inside, the energy had settled into a post-toast buzz. Laughter drifted from the bar. Someone had started a conga line near the dance floor. Sabrina basked in it, posing for selfies, twirling in her gown, sipping from her custom bride wine glass like nothing had happened. But the moment Daniel stepped back into the room, something shifted. He didn't rush, didn't make a scene, just walked with purpose toward the DJ table and gestured for the mic. The music faded. People looked around. "Daniel wants to say a few words," the DJ announced, trying to sound cheerful but clearly thrown off. Sabrina turned mid-laugh, surprised. "Wait, babe, now." Daniel smiled at her, softly but with something sharper beneath it. Then he turned to the room. "Hey everyone," he said, clearing his throat. "I wasn't planning a second speech tonight, but there's something important I need to say." The room quieted. Forks stopped clinking. Sabrina slowly stepped toward him, confusion creasing her brow. "You all know how beautiful tonight's been. The food, the music, the people, we're grateful. But I need to shine a light on someone who's been kind of hidden in the background." Emily, standing just inside the back door, froze. People turned toward her. Someone who didn't ask for attention, didn't ask for credit. But without her, this wedding wouldn't have happened the way it did. A murmur spread through the crowd. Daniel continued. "Emily Ross, Sabrina's sister, handled the vendor crisis, paid a deposit when we were stuck, helped your mother find her dress, calmed down your dad during the rehearsal panic, and somehow still managed to smile through it all." He turned his gaze to the crowd, then to Sabrina. "And she was thanked with a joke." Silence. Sabrina's eyes widened. "Daniel." "No," he said gently. "This matters." He turned to Emily. "You deserved more than a punchline. You deserved a spotlight. And I want everyone here to know, your grace, your patience, your strength. That's what real love looks like." The room was dead still. Some guests looked away, embarrassed. Others nodded quietly. Sabrina's mouth opened, closed. For the first time, she had nothing to say. And Emily, she didn't cry. She just stood there, hands gently clasped in front of her, and nodded once. Not to him, but to herself. Because for the first time in her sister's world, she wasn't background noise. She was the reason the show was still standing. The room didn't erupt in applause. It didn't need to. There was a different kind of silence now. The heavy, uncomfortable kind. The kind that forced people to reflect. On what they'd laughed at. On what they'd ignored. Emily remained by the door. She wasn't glowing. She wasn't smug. She was still. But inside, something had shifted. Years of swallowing pride, laughing off jabs, pretending that being the stable one was enough. It all cracked open. Not loudly. Not violently. Just finally. Across the room, she could see Sabrina. Watching Daniel with a mixture of disbelief and something that looked an awful lot like fear. Because Sabrina had always counted on being the center. But Daniel just rewired the gravity in the room. And for once, Emily wasn't orbiting anymore. She walked back toward her seat slowly. Guests made way for her. Some gave small nods, others awkward smiles. A few simply looked down, unsure how to face her. She didn't need their words. She had hers. And she'd never even opened her mouth. At table 9, someone gently pulled out her chair. "That was something," the woman next to her whispered. "You okay?" Emily smiled. "Real one. Better than I've been in years." She sipped her wine. The same wine she'd been sipping when her sister made her the joke. Only this time it tasted different. Like dignity. Like freedom. Like quiet revenge, the kind that doesn't destroy, it dignifies. Sabrina didn't come over. She couldn't. Because when you spend your life shrinking someone else to feel taller, and they finally stand up without saying a word, you realize how small you've really been. It didn't take long. 15 minutes after Daniel's mic drop, Sabrina made her move, because she always did. She approached Emily's table with a stiff smile, holding her wine like it was a prop in a bad stage play. Her eyes darted quickly between guests, making sure she was being seen smiling. "Hey," she said, drawing out the word like nothing had happened. "Wasn't that a sweet little surprise?" Emily looked up, calm as ever. Was it? Sabrina's smile twitched. Just slightly. Daniel's so dramatic, right? I mean, I loved what he said, but it's not that serious. Everyone knew I was just joking. Did they? Emily asked, still not raising her voice. Because from where I was sitting, a lot of people suddenly stopped laughing. That hit. Sabrina blinked. Okay, she said, lowering her voice. I didn't mean to embarrass you. It's my wedding. People expect a little fun. Emily sipped her drink. Unmoved. You didn't embarrass me, she said. You embarrassed yourself. You just didn't notice until the groom did. That silence between them was so sharp it could have sliced the fondant off the cake. Sabrina glanced around, still searching for someone watching, some backup, a sympathetic glance. But the energy had shifted. The spotlight she once ruled now hovered somewhere else. And she knew it. I just wanted people to laugh, she murmured. At me, Emily replied. Because it's always safe, isn't it? As long as I'm the one being laughed at, you're the one being adored. Sabrina didn't respond. She didn't have to. The weight of Daniel's speech was still echoing across the reception. It had cracked her polished facade in front of everyone she cared about. And the one person she thought would never push back, finally had. Emily stood, straightened her dress, and looked her sister in the eye. Enjoy your night, Sabrina. You earned it. Then she walked away, not storming, not sulking, just stepping into the kind of power Sabrina never saw coming. And this time, everyone watched her leave, not with pity, with respect. Emily didn't head for the door. She didn't need to. Instead, she walked toward the dessert table, calmly choosing a slice of lemon cake while conversations restarted around her. Lower, softer, different. 'Cause the mood had changed. Now, instead of endless praise for the decor or the bride's dress, people were murmuring about the moment. The speech. The truth that had been dragged, quietly and calmly, into the open. I didn't realize how much Emily did. That speech gave me chills. Honestly. It needed to be said. One of Sabrina's college friends approached, setting her drink down beside Emily's plate. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For laughing. Emily raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. You didn't deserve that, the woman added. Honestly, I always thought you were kind of just in the background. But I think that was just the way she talked about you. Tonight changed that. Emily nodded once, offering a small, polite smile. Thank you, she said. But I didn't do it to be seen. No, the woman replied. But now you are. Another guest came by. Then another. Some gave brief acknowledgments. Others shared quiet gratitude. Even a few staff members subtly nodded when they passed her, like they felt the shift too. And through it all, Emily didn't posture. Didn't boast. She let the room correct itself around her. She didn't need to reclaim anything. Because the truth was, she'd always held power. It just took one man with a microphone to reveal it. Across the room, Daniel caught her eye. He gave a small nod. Nothing performative. Just an acknowledgement. And that was enough. Because for the first time at a family event, Emily wasn't disappearing into the wallpaper. She was the story they'd all remember. Not because she demanded the spotlight, but because she no longer dimmed herself to survive it. Emily was nibbling at her cake when she saw them, her mom and dad, hovering near the photo booth, half committed to joining the line but clearly distracted. They were watching her, noticing her. That alone was rare. Her mother gave a small wave. Her father gave that nervous smile he always gave when he didn't know how to start something that probably should have been said years ago. Emily set her plate down and walked toward them, not out of obligation but because she was ready. Her mother got there first. Hi, sweetheart, she said, adjusting the strap of her purse, even though she wasn't wearing one. You look lovely tonight. It was a weak start but a start. Emily just tilted her head slightly. Thanks. Her father cleared his throat. We didn't realize how much you were doing. For the wedding. For Sabrina. Emily looked at him. His eyes were red. not from tears but from the weight of recognition. "It's not about that," she said gently. "It's not about the favors. It's about the way you all let her treat me like I was invisible, and called it sister stuff." Her mother blinked, wounded but not defensive. "You're right." That caught Emily off guard. Her father stepped in. "We laughed because she made everything a joke. We didn't realize the cost." "You didn't want to," Emily said quietly. There was a beat of silence. Her mom reached out, touching her arm. "I saw you tonight, really saw you. And I don't know how we missed it before." Emily could have snapped. She could have listed every holiday she showed up early to help, every birthday party where she got a candle and not a cake, every family photo where she stood on the edge. But instead, she just nodded. "Thank you. That means more than you think. We're proud of you," her father added. "Even if we haven't said it enough." Emily didn't cry, but her shoulders softened like she'd been carrying a quiet weight for years, and someone finally noticed it was there. "I'm not asking for a parade," she said. "I just want to stop being the shadow." Her mother squeezed her hand. "You aren't. Not anymore." Emily stepped back, offered them a warm smile, and excused herself to get some water. She didn't float away. She walked with grounded steps, head high, heart clear. Because for the first time in her family's long, loud history, they followed her lead. The string lights had dimmed. The last song faded into the hush of clinking glassware and slow goodbyes. Couples danced lazily or leaned into each other in cozy corners. Tables were half cleared, centerpieces starting to droop. The reception was winding down, and Emily was still there. But this time not because she felt obligated. 'Cause she wanted to be. She stood just outside the tent, arms folded loosely, watching the slow unraveling of a night she thought would crush her. Instead it cracked something open. Sabrina hadn't approached her again. And that was telling. Daniel passed by on his way to the valet and gave her one final look, not needing words, not seeking praise. Just two people silently acknowledging the truth between them. Respect isn't loud, but it's unforgettable once given. As Emily turned toward the parking lot, heels clicking lightly on the stone path, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Hey Emily. This is Carla, Sabrina's college friend. Would love to grab coffee sometime. There's a lot I'd like to learn from someone like you." Emily smiled faintly. People were watching now, but differently. Not like an accessory to someone else's story, but like a person of her own gravity. Her car, she paused. Looked back at the venue, at the tables, the lights, the crowd slowly fading. And she realized something. This wedding wasn't a breakdown. It was a pivot. No more shrinking to keep the peace. No more playing the emotional mule so others could ride high. Tonight had shown her that silence isn't always noble. And being the strong one didn't mean being invisible. As she unlocked the door, slid into the seat, and started the engine, she whispered one final line to herself. Like a vow, not just to remember the night, but to remember herself. "I'm not disappearing anymore." Then she pulled out of the lot, headlights slicing the darkness. Calm, clear, and finally, free. Emily woke up before the sun. Not because of anxiety. Not because she was replaying the night in her head. But because something in her had settled. The kind of stillness that doesn't come from a perfect night. Comes from surviving one you thought would break you. She brewed her usual cup of black coffee and sat by the window, watching the faint morning light stretch across the sky like a quiet promise. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from her mother. "We want you to come for dinner next week. Just you. No noise. Just us. If you want." Emily stared at it. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't performative. It was different. She typed back. "Okay. I'd like that." Then she walked over to the mirror. Same robe. Same face. But something was different. Because for the first time in a long time, she wasn't picking herself apart. Wasn't wondering if she'd said the wrong thing. Wasn't shrinking. She looked at herself like she had just arrived. Fully. And the reflection didn't seem like someone waiting in the wings anymore. She saw a woman who stayed, who didn't run, who didn't explode, who didn't beg to be seen. She stood, and the world adjusted around her. The silence was her power now. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of control. No one would ever make her feel like a footnote again. Because she'd discovered the truth. You don't have to shout to be unforgettable. Sometimes you just have to stop apologizing for taking up space. A few weeks later, Emily found herself at another gathering, this time much smaller. A local non-profit she quietly supported had invited her to a casual fundraising dinner. Nothing fancy. No gowns. No centerpieces. Just people trying to do good things. She went alone. No sister. No microphone. No drama. And yet, people noticed her. Not because she demanded attention, but because something about her presence had changed. She no longer entered a room trying not to upset the balance. She was the balance now. During a break in the dinner, the host approached her. "Emily, right? I heard you helped coordinate Sabrina Ross's wedding." Emily raised an eyebrow. "I did. Why?" The woman chuckled warmly. "Word travels. Heard you were the reason it didn't fall apart. We could really use someone like you for our upcoming event." Emily hesitated. Not because she wasn't capable, but because she was no longer in the business of saving people who didn't value her. "Who would I be reporting to?" she asked. The woman smiled. "You'd be leading." Emily looked down at her hands for a moment. Hands that used to carry silent weight. Now they were being asked to carry something else. Direction. "Okay," she said softly. "I'm in." As the woman walked away to get her paperwork, Emily sat back in her chair and let herself feel it. This time she wasn't the background. She was the one they were looking to. Not because of a wedding. Not because of a title. But because she finally believed in her own value. She wasn't seeking validation. She was just living in a way that made people pause and notice. And that was all the spotlight she ever needed.